Yeah, so hi everyone. This is Nitin Lama this side. So today will be a session for Form API and we'll be discussing about Form APIs and what is a Form API, what it does, and some key features of Form API. And next we'll be creating the custom form. And next I'll be giving a demo for the form we will be creating and then the conclusion. So let's start. Now, what is a form API? So the form API in Drupal is a powerful tool that allows developers to create and manipulate forms easily. Now it provides a sets of functions and APIs that developer can use to create, validate, and process forms in Drupal. Basically, also it provides a consistent, easy to use interface for creating forms. And with Form API, you can create complex multi-step forms and we can also validate user inputs. Now, forms are an essential part of any website as they enables users to interact with the website by submitting data. Okay, so Drupal Form APIs allows developer to create custom forms for various purposes like contact forms, login forms, registration forms, and so on. So what are some key features of the Form API in Drupal? The first is like it is easy to use. Now, Drupal Form API is easy to use and does not require much coding experience. It provides a sets of simple and intuitive functions that developer can use to create. The second key feature is validation. Now, the Form API provides built-in validation function that allows that allows developers to validate form data easily. So these functions can be used to ensure that data entered by the user is valid and meets the specified criteria. The third is security. Drupal Form APIs also provides built-in security features that help prevent attacks like cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery, CSRF. Fourth is customizable. The Form API is highly customizable and can be used to create complex forms with multiple fields, buttons, and actions. Fifth is it is themable, which means that developer can customize the appearance of a form by changing their CSS and HTML. We can add classes, divs in the elements itself. Sixth is it integrates with other Drupal APIs. Now the Form API can be integrated with other Drupal APIs like the database API, user API, and node API. Such APIs can be used in processing the submitted data. What are the steps to create a custom form? So first step is to create a .info.yaml inside a custom module. So for this presentation, we are creating a custom module for this specific custom form. So that is why we will be creating a .info.yaml. So this first step is actually not needed in case if you are creating a form. Now the second step is to create a form class, which will be returning a structured form array. The directory of this form class will be inside a module src form folder. So the class name, if I say form class is the class name of the form, so the file name should also be the form class.php. The third step will be to create a routing.yaml. And the fourth step is also optional if in case we need to uh, alter any in forms. Okay, so we can use hook form alter or hook form ID alter functions for any alteration. Well, there are several types of forms commonly used in Drupal. Each has a base class which you can extend in your own custom module. So the first is to identify what type of form you need to build. So a generic form will extend a form base class. A configuration form will extend a config form base class. Now, a configuration form enables administration or any admin to update a module settings or the configurations of the site. So to create a custom form, we will be defining elements inside build form function. Each key element will be holding the name of the form element and value of properties of value, okay, inside the element. This is an example how we can create a form element. So this is the key and these are the properties. So for just to enter name, we will be defining type text field, and this is the other property required, which is true. So without filling this field, the user cannot submit the form since it is a required element. Now, the basic workflow of a form is basically, you can say, defined by three methods: build form, validate form, submit form method. Now the form base basically implements form interface class, and therefore any form that has form base in its hierarchy, it is required to implement few methods, which are get form ID, build form function, and submit form function. Okay, so these three methods are required if any form class is implementing form interface. We can add validation as discussed. After a user fills out the form and clicks the submit button, it's common to perform some sort of validation on data that's being collected. So to do this with Drupal form API, we simply implement the validate form method from form interface class. Now, if a validation function returns an error message, form submission will be prevented and the error message will be displayed to the user. The last comes the submission of the form. Now, when a form is submitted, Drupal calls a submission function. It calls a submission function, which is submit form. And we can do various processing in the submit form function, such as we can store the data into database, we can call another function. So we can do many things inside the submit form function. Well, it depends on the requirement or what the form does. Now, how we will be accessing the form. Now, how the user will access the form. So for that, we will be integrating the form in a request. Okay. So to integrate the form into Drupal site, we will be using a route system like this, where we will be defining a form path. So this is a namespace. And here the form key tells the routing system that the provided class name is a form class to be instantiated and handled as a form. So these are like the three steps required to, create a form and to access a form. Now let's go for the demo. So as discussed in the step, here I am following those steps. So first step is to create, hold on, it's too slow. Let me increase the playback. So here I'm creating a custom module specifically for this custom form, which in case we usually don't need in projects. again, it's based on the requirement. If if we need a module for this custom form, we can create a module like this, the way I'm creating right now. So for the demo, we will be creating a employee registration form. Here I am again defining the in detail information about the module, like what it is and what are the core version requirements and the name of the module. Now the next step was to create a form class in the structured directory, which is custom module src and form folder. So we will be naming our form class as registration, and so the file name will be registration.php. Here I'm defining the namespace. These are some Drupal coding standard which I'm following. We're naming the class registration, and this registration class is extending a base class, which is form base. Now the form base implements form interface class. So as I said earlier, it is required to implement a few methods, which includes get form ID, build form function, and submit form function, where validate form function is optional. Here we have defined get form ID, which will be returning the form ID. So it is good if we name the form ID as module name. Um, so we have given employee registration underscore form. So the next function is build form function, um, which consists of parameters, form and form state interface as a form state variable. And then we are creating the elements as discussed earlier. So for the employee registration form, we will be needing some fields. So let's say first field is name, second field is employee number, third field is mail ID, fourth field is contact number, fifth field is let's say employee date of birth, and sixth field is let's say gender of the employee. Okay, so we can create many types of elements inside this build form. Um, so each element has different type. Here we are using select type, where we can give options, multiple options. So this build form is responsible for to return the array of form. So that form will be holding the structured will be holding the values of the elements which we have created right now. Since form cannot be submitted without a button, so we definitely need to create action button, which here is submit button. Okay, now let's say we want to add a validation for the contact number. So the validation would be like, it should not be less than 10 digits. So in that case, we will be creating a validation function inside validate form. And there we will be adding some conditions, which is like the phone number should not be less than 10 digits. So in that case, I am getting the value of that element, EMP phone, and I'm counting the length of uh, the field, and it should be less than, it shouldn't, if it is less than 10, like 9 digits only, then this will throw an error. Okay, like the number is too short, please enter a full phone number. So after adding validate form, we are ready to create a submit form function. And inside submit form function, we will be processing all our data. So, so since it's a very simple basic form, we will be just um, printing the entered value in the form. Okay. So we are using a messenger function to add message in the UI. So as soon as the user submits the form, this messenger function will be called and it will show a message as employee registration is done. So this is in this part, submit form, we can do a number of things. We can alter the submission data. We can change, like we can use that submission data to store that value in other form as well, in config forms as well, and whatnot. Now the next step was to create a routing.yaml to integrate the form for in a request. So when we will be visiting this registration form path, so this will act as a request for the Drupal, and this will so via this path, this form will be called. So for this, we are using underscore form key and with the namespace. Okay. So that is how we have created uh, a custom module. Now let's visit our folder. So this is our form. Now let's go to now let's clear cache once. So our custom module name was employee registration form. So let's install this. Now let's visit this path. So here we have employee registration form. Here are the fields: enter name, employee number, email ID. Now we have made this fields required. So if I save this, there will be a prompt message to fill this field. Let's say we enter 5 digits. So here is a validation form function working. So the phone number is too short. So let's type 10 digits and save. So this is the message that we are showing via messenger. Employee registration done, and here are the details of the elements we have just filled. Okay. Now, so this was a very basic example. There, like we can do a lot of things via form API. And let's say Drupal also gives our option to create a contact form. So we can create a basic contact form from here as well. So let's say we submit a website feedback form. Okay. Again, these elements also were created using this form API. So these are elements which we have created in the same way. And let's send a message. So as you can see, the message is sent. So definitely in the submission function, we are sending a mail. So let's check mail hog. And here we have received a mail and subject test. So this was another example of form API where we can send an email in submit form. And that is how we create a custom form using form API. So in conclusion, so the form API is a powerful tool for building forms in Drupal. Okay. Now with the form API, you can create again complex forms with validation and processing functions. Um, it is easy to use, customizable, and by using form API, you can ensure that your forms are consistent and easy to use for your users. Thank you. So any questions?
Hi guys, thank you for watching. I had an amazing time learning all the new things here at SpecBees TechX. And if you did too, do let us know in the comments below. Keep following SpecBee for the latest trends in technology. See you in the next one.